morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Your Excellencies. I want to welcome you especially to this second day, and which for us is a very, very historic day. As we mentioned yesterday, and as you would have seen in your various programs, we have decided to dedicate today, especially to the women who have and continue to lead ombudsman and oversight institutions around the world. It's a special event which, to the best of our knowledge, has never been done anywhere. But more importantly is the fact that it's a recognition of the fact that women have played very, very significant role in getting the ombudsman institution to where it is today around the world. So, and for that reason, we have also said all the women leaders, we want them in front because we want them recognized right in front. I think those who are present here, past and present women leaders, I think also the commissioners from Nigeria, if there are any women there, leaders there, we want them all to come to this first and second row because we do want to specially recognize them, for the contribution they've made. But just before we start the actual activity for today, there are a couple of announcements that I think is important that we make. One, I would like to recognize some of the delegates that we missed out yesterday inadvertently. First, we have someone who is also very important. She will be the police ombudsman. She comes from a state, Seattle, or which state of that? Washington. She's from in the United States. She's the deputy police ombudsman, Washington. Yeah? Okay, all right. We also have, of course, yesterday we had Madame Sekoni sitting on the high table representing the International Ombudsman Institute. Madame Sekoni, as you know, is not only the president of IOI Africa, she's also, substantively the public protector of Zambia. The Zambians decided to copy the South Africans by taking a similar name, but we don't know why they did that. We're still asking them the question, why they changed the name of their office, to public protector. To the best of my knowledge, Madame Sekoni is the longest serving, woman ombudsman in Africa at the moment. When she comes, we would also, recognize her. So not only do we have the first woman ombudsman from Zambia, we also have the longest serving woman ombudsman in Africa today. And I think to a large extent, she's probably the most senior ombudsman in the continent at the moment. So we also thought, so when she comes in, we will recognize her. The other person I do want to recognize is the ombudsman. She's not an ombudsman, but what she does is that she holds the responsibility for financial ombudsman matters in the Central Bank of Swaziland. If I'm right, Madam Rifloy, Okay, she comes. He's a member of the Central Bank of Eswatini, the Kingdom of Swaziland, and she also has been with us for this event. So, but in the course of the day, we would also recognize those who we think have joined us from different parts of the world. I've just seen Madame Sekoni comes in. Madame Sekoni, we've just been talking about you. In the African culture, when you talk about someone, I think that's long life, isn't it? Yes, okay. So welcome, Madam. At the end of this session, at about 12:30, all the ombudsmen and head of delegation will accompany the Chief Ombudsman of Nigeria to visit the Senate President.
Thank you very much, Prof. Good morning once again, our distinguished delegates from the various jurisdictions. I hope we had some little rest last night, and we are fresh this morning to start our program. As you can see from your program, and has already been introduced by Professor Yeni, today is actually a Ladies' Day. And I will straight away go into the session of eulogies, and through that bring our special guests to the high table. We're starting the session with a lecture to be taken by Diane D. Wellborn. And so before I invite her, I'll just go back to what we have to say about her. Diane Wellborn has served as ombudsman for Dayton and Montgomery County in Ohio since July 1999. The office handles citizens' complaints about government agencies and advocates for rights of residents of long-term care facilities. Ms. Wellborn completed her Master's in Arts from the School of Social Services Administration at the University of Chicago. Before her association with the Ombudsman's Office, Ms. Wellborn served as coordinator of professional networks and membership for Amnesty International, the USA, and staff member of Dwight Hall of Yale University. Ms. Wellborn is the author of the weekly Ombuds column published in the Dayton Daily newspaper, author of the Ombudsman Office Weekly Update, and the producer of the monthly Ombuds program on Dayton Access Television. It is my pleasure, therefore, to invite Diane Wellborn.
Hello, I'm Diane Wellborn, First Vice President of the International Ombudsman Institute. I bring you greetings at this special occasion from the International Ombudsman Institute, our President, Peter Tyndall, the Ombudsman of Ireland, and the staff at the International Secretariat in Vienna, Austria. We all send our best wishes for a successful exposition. The history of the impact of women on the development of ombudsman institutions has not yet been written, but at this International Expo, the foundation will be laid. As I read with great interest the invitation to attend this expo, I also realized that I have had the pleasure, honor, and benefit of knowing many of the women leaders in ombudsman institutions. So it is with pleasure that I reflect upon the impact of the women I have known and their contributions to our work as ombudsman. I will begin at home, so to speak. My predecessor in the Ohio Ombudsman Office was Bonnie McCauley from 1974 to 1992, who was instrumental in establishing the United States Ombudsman Association in 1977 and served as the president of that association. My Ombudsman Office joined the International Ombudsman Institute in 1978, and Ombudsman McCauley attended the second IOI World Conference in Jerusalem in 1980. In those early days of ombudsman institutions in the United States, Ombudsman McCauley was instrumental in the establishment of ombudsman offices in other jurisdictions. The ombudsman who followed her was Marie Ferguson from 1992 to 1999, who was also a leader and officer of the United States Ombudsman Association and a member of the board of directors of the IOI. I was appointed ombudsman in 1999. I was also elected to the United States Ombudsman Association and served in several officer roles and as a regular presenter at annual USOA conferences. During this time, the USOA developed a 2-day training program for new ombudsmen, which has become an annual event. Most of the ombudsman offices in the United States have had women serving in the position of ombudsman. I was elected to the board of directors of the International Ombudsman Institute in 2010, and through that association, I have worked with many distinguished female ombudsmen. Nilde Arduin at St. Martin, Catherine de Broeker of Belgium, Dr. Po-Ya Chang of Taiwan, Elisabeth Fura of Sweden, Deborah Glass of Australia, Irina Lipowitz of Poland, Panit Nithiprapas of Thailand, Ujong Pak of Korea, Victoria Pierman and Arlene Brock of Bermuda, Caroline Zocconi of Zambia, and Lynette Stevenson of Trinidad and Tobago, Alice Tai and Connie Lau of Hong Kong, Alima Traore of Burkina Faso, and Beverly Wakeham of New Zealand, who became the president of the IOI, the first female president of the IOI. I want to highlight that women contributing as assistants or deputies within ombudsman offices are also leaders and have made enormous contributions to the success of our ombudsman institutions around the world. I would like to name Barbara Findlay of the Ontario Ombudsman Office and Sharpening Your Teeth fame, Wendy Ray of the Ontario Office, Satomi Muto of the Ombudsman Office of Japan, and Roy Pin Therawong and Kanokwan Anatagul of Thailand. These women have guided ombudsman institutions when the term of office of the ombudsman have changed and new ombudsmen have been appointed. Dr. Linda C. Reif of the Faculty of Law at the University of Alberta, Edmonton, served as the editor of publications for the International Ombudsman Institute from 1989 to 2009. She is a noted scholar of ombudsman institutions and has published numerous books and articles on the subject of ombudsman institutions and human rights institutions. She must be acknowledged and thanked for her enormous contribution to our field. When I first joined the board of directors of the International Ombudsman Institute, I was told that the organization was like a moribund boys club. I quote here Richard Carver, A Mission for Justice from Vienna, 2018, page 73. When I attended the 1996 World Conference in Argentina, there were only 2 women on the entire program. Dr. Victoria M. Velasquez de Aviles of El Salvador and Roberta Jameson of Ontario, Canada. Roberta Jameson's emphasis on taking ombudsman services to Indigenous peoples and to those who were generally underserved brought a renewed value of the importance of reaching the people through ombudsman offices. Thankfully, since 1996, much has changed, and women are increasingly in leadership roles. Ombudsman Alice Tai of Hong Kong played a prominent role on the task force, which resulted in the movement of the International Secretariat from its origin in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, to Vienna, Austria. President Dame Beverly Wakeham led the organization to new heights in her discussions of unleashing the power of women and therefore bringing new skills and capacities to our work. Dame Beverly Wakeham also led the IOI into improvements for training and the importance of human rights work in the work of ombudsman institutions. Fiona Crean was the first City of Toronto Ombudsman, 2008 to 2015, and made creative use of an International Ombudsman Institute subvention to do an evaluation of the performance of her office, which is a model that others can follow. Looking over the roles of all of these women leaders of ombudsman institutions, what can I identify as the distinctive contributions of women to the international movement? First, it can hardly be a coincidence that it was a woman in the person of Dame Beverly Wakeham who finally internationalized the leadership of the IOI at the highest level by nurturing leadership from Africa, Asia, and Latin America. It took a woman to make the leadership of the IOI a global village. Second, the style of collaborative leadership that women bring to ombudsman institutions is an identifiable factor in the effective exercise of power, such as Dr. Po-Ya Cheng of Taiwan, whose office has the extraordinary power of impeaching public officials, and the successful contribution of ombudsmen such as Panit Nithiprapas of Thailand to the drafting of the Constitution in her country. Third, it is the tenacity of women who have been obliged to struggle and to find their voice in a male-dominated world that comes to expression in the courageous vigilance of the Ombudsman Thuli Mandosela, who has exposed corruption at the highest level. The contributions of women to the work of ombudsmen over the past 40 years inspire confidence for the future. As women find their voices, we look forward to a practice that is more inclusive, collaborative, more tenacious and persistent, more progressive and democratic. I say to any woman leader of an ombudsman institution that I have not mentioned in this greeting that I want to meet you. I know there are hundreds of you out there. I am so pleased that this gathering of women in ombudsman institutions is taking place. Please enjoy one another and the unique time together. Thank you.
Can we give another round of applause to that message from? Thank you very much. We now bring our speakers for this morning to the high table. And I have the pleasure to first invite Irene Harrison Henry, the Public Defender of Jamaica, to please come over to the high table. Next to come to the high table is Martha Chizuma, the Ombudsman of Malawi. Give her a round of applause, please. Next, Caroline Sokoni, Public Protector of Zambia. Then last but not the least, Antonia Flobera Rocha Arujo. She is the Provedor de Justiça Adjunta Republic de Angola. Please, round of applause for her. I've learned to pronounce some of these names. I understand when it is J-O, you don't say Joe, you say Ho. And I've tried to pronounce it as such. I hope I got it right. Arujo. Am I right? Arujo. Okay, that's all right. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Now, just before we get to the topics that will be discussed, I will quickly go over our eulogies for this prominent ombudsman. Now, Irene Harrison Henry, who is the ombudsman of Jamaica, welcomed his first female public defender sworn in on January 16, 2015. Mrs. Irene Harrison Henry was sworn in by Sir Patrick Allen, Governor General of Jamaica, at the King's House. Her appointment was effective January 19, 2015. Mrs. Harrison Henry came to this office with a wealth of knowledge and experience in the law practice of the law and human rights advocacy, and she has a BSc degree in government with an upper second class honors, has an LLB, again upper second class honors. She also has a certificate in legal education from Norman Manley Law School. Prior to her appointment, Irene served as Deputy Clerk of the Court, Clerk of Courts, Assistant Crown Counsel, and Attorney at Law at the private bar. Irene has held numerous positions and was previously a member of the Jamaican Bar Association, member of the Jamaican Council of Human Rights and chairman of the Independent Jamaica Council for Human Rights, chairman of the Jamaica Bar Council 1997 to 2007, vice president of the Jamaican Bar Association, chairman of the Independent Jamaican Council for Human Rights, director and company secretary of Jamaica Foundation for Lifelong Learning, which is a ministerial appointment to her name, to name a few. Can we give a round of applause to that person? Thank you very much. Next is Martha Chizuma. Honorable Martha Chizuma holds a Master's of Laws, International Law, and World Economy degree from the University of East London in UK, 2006 to 2007, and a Bachelor of Laws with Honors LLB from the University of Malawi, Chancellor College, 1997 to 2002. She started working as a senior resident magistrate in 2002 to 2003, and rose to assistant registrar of the High Court and Supreme Court of Appeal, 2003 to 2006. From October 2007 to December 2011, she served as the deputy chairperson of the Industrial Relations Court. The Industrial Relations Court is established under the Labor Relations Act of Malawi to hear and determine all labor and employment cases in Malawi. Honorable Martha Chizuma is also a member of the Malawi Bar, member of the Women Lawyers Association of Malawi, and Women Judges Association of Malawi, founding member and ex-official member. Honorable Martha Chizuma was appointed Malawi's 4th Ombudsman for a renewable 5-year term of office by the Public Appointments Committee, effective December 2015. During her tenure as the Ombudsman of Malawi, she has made strides in improving and enhancing the operations and strengthening the independence of the Ombudsman institution in Malawi through a number of strategies, implementing and repositioning agenda which has seen the office fully utilizing its unique legal mandate by investigating services delivery, complaints, as opposed to labor-related matters in the public service, as well as monitoring public service delivery in public institutions, and championing the introduction of the Hospital Ombudsman Platform, a social accountability platform in health services delivery, with the aim of improving services and service delivery in public hospitals, among others. My pleasure to introduce once again to you Martha Chizuma, the Ombudsman of Malawi. Next on the introduction list is Caroline Sokoni. Mrs. Caroline Chuma Zulu Sokoni began her professional career in 1989 as state advocate under the then Minister of Legal Affairs, now known as Minister of Justice. She has a Master of Law in Criminology from Queen Mary and Westfield College, University of London, the United Kingdom. Mrs. Sokoni served under the Minister of Justice for 15 years. It was during her time that the ministry that her professional career began to rise, and she was appointed as the Acting Director of Public Prosecutions for the Republic of Zambia in February 2004. Mrs. Sokoni was also appointed as a task team leader for the legal component of the Water Resources Management Project, a policy formulation body tasked to spearhead the reform of the water resources management process in Zambia, currently serving as the Public Protector of Zambia. Mrs. Sokoni has served under the position of the country's National Ombudsman for 15 years. Can we give her a round of applause for that? I don't think people get to stay that long. Now, she successfully advocated for the change of the Zambian Ombudsman's office from an executive ombudsman to a parliamentary ombudsman office. The office transitioned from the executive system to a parliamentary ombudsman system on the 5th of January 2016, after the passing of the Constitution Bill number 17 of 2015 into law. The name of the Zambia Ombudsman Office changed from the Office of the Investigator General to the Office of the Public Protector. Aside from her success as Zambian National Ombudsman, Mrs. Sokoni has contributed to the growth of the institution of the Ombudsman on the international platform. She served as African Ombudsman Mediators Association AOMA South African Coordinator from 2009 to 2014, and later held the position of Treasurer General of the AOMA from 2015 to 2018. Between 2009 and 2013, she served as the Regional Director for the African region of the International Ombuds Institute, IOI Board. Mrs. Kone has been selected twice in 2013 and 2016 respectively to hold the position of IOI Africa Regional President, which she currently still holds. Can we give a round of applause to Mrs. Sokoni? Finally, Antonia Flobera de Jesus Rocha Arrojo. Antonia Flobera de Jesus Rocha Arrojo was elected Deputy Ombudsman on the 19th of December 2017. She took office as Deputy Ombudsman before the President of the National Assembly on the 18th of January 2018. Antonia completed a law degree in 1990 at the University of Agostinho Neto, after which she completed a master's degree in 2002. International Legal Sciences at the Classical University of Lisbon, before attending a further course on the Legal Political Science of the Classical University of Lisbon. Antonia has participated in several seminars and professional trainings in Angola, Portugal, Spain, France, Brazil, in New York, including leadership and law-making courses in Portugal and Angola. A course on Angolan administration litigation course, techniques of performance evaluation in the public sector, a training on international treaties in New York, in the UN, amongst others. Antonia was elected Deputy Ombudsman on the 19th of December 2017, and I think that was a repetition. Prior to this, Antonia was a deputy accountant from 1972 to 1973, a first, second, and third level teacher in Malanje and Luanda from 1973 to 1985, assistant and higher education professor at the Catholic University and Lusíada University of Angola from 2001 to, Antonia has held several positions at the Secretariat of the Council for Ministers from 1988 to 1996, such as Superior Staff Member of the Department, Legal and State Affairs, Director of the Office of the Preparation of the Council of Ministers, and Advisor to the Secretary of the Council of Ministers. Can we give a round of applause to Antonia, please? Thank you very much. The table is now set for us to proceed. And like we've said before, each speaker has between 15 to 20 minutes, but we'll make it 18. So 15 to 18 minutes to make a presentation. and then thereafter we allow time for questions and contributions. Because of the speech that was made on the video presentation, we'll be taking in the first session only one paper, which is to be presented by Irene Harrison Henry. And when she's done, we'll take questions and contributions on that and finish before we move to the next person. It's now my pleasure to invite Irene to the table. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I bring greetings and salutations from the people of Jamaica, and in particular from the Office of the Public Defender. As a little background to who we are, you should know that about 99% of Jamaicans came from Nigeria or Ghana, sadly, by way of the transatlantic slave trade. In a real sense, our participation in this conference is a homecoming, as we in Jamaica were honed in the crucible of women ancestors from this continent. So I recognize the other Jamaicans, Donna Parchment Brown and Herbie Mackenzie. So we as Jamaicans continue to accept the African continent as our mother country. The connection between Jamaica, Nigeria, and Ghana is an everlasting bond which cradles our ancestry, our DNA, and the essence of our identity. Such are the ties that bind us. Before I go further, I want to just say thanks to the organizers for having a special recognition of women and women's role in ombudsman history. And it is important that we fill the gaps as to this important history. The ombuds is an important and powerful figure within the community. In general, our role is to provide the checks and balances on actions of government with respect to the rights and interests of ordinary citizens, as well as to investigate complaints, to raise the concerns of the community, and ultimately to find solutions and offer redress where a wrong has occurred. Such a role as we have undertaken necessitates a strong, impeccable moral code of utmost honesty and integrity. The need to develop immense respect among members of the community, including elders, youth, vulnerable people, civil society, business communities, and a strong connection to the history of the community, and obviously a fair and impartial disposition. One that is protective of the very integrity of the community itself. The ombuds is the conscience of the community and the protector of the community against abuse, maladministration, unfair decisions and violation of human rights, and environmental degradation, to name a few. In fact, in the year 2000, our own legislation was amended and expanded to give the public defender jurisdiction to investigate allegations of human rights abuses and also constitutional violations. This was as a result of the demands of the Jamaican people, who demanded more access to justice and justice itself. In the Jamaican community, there is an enduring and historical tradition of female leadership in all walks of life. From the shopkeeper to the partner woman. We know what the partner woman is. It's a woman who, there is an informal banking system where people pool their money together to save. All the way up to a female prime minister. There are examples of female leadership to be found all over the society and at all levels. At the community level, particularly in rural communities, there is one formidable character that carries immense respect. She is a carrier of knowledge and the conduit through which ancestor spirit flows. She is the warner woman, the powerful figure who warns of injustice, of pending doom. She stands alone, untouched and uninfluenced, a voice of reason, cutting through the chatter of government and speaking for the people who might be incapable or afraid to represent themselves. That figure bears a striking resemblance to the modern-day ombuds, or as I am identified in my current dispensation, a public defender. Ours is the duty to be sensitive to the concerns of the community. We should see the fire before it is lit. As Caribbean people, descended from West African societies, we have first-hand understanding of the role of women, not only in keeping order in the community, but also in defending the community from harm. There are 7 commissions of parliament in Jamaica, 4 of which are headed by women. One of our national heroes in Jamaica is a woman with diminutive stature, but who wielded enormous power, known mythically as Queen Nanny of the Maroons. This mysterious woman of Ashanti origin came to prominence during Jamaica's colonial era as one of the leaders of a rebellious tribe of runaway slaves known as the Maroons. During the First Maroon War of 1720 to 1729, a protracted battle of resistance to British domination, and the British attempted to obliterate Maroon communities and return those communities to one of servitude. Queen Nanny distinguished herself as a master strategist in guerrilla warfare, as well as a savvy diplomat. Her leadership not only frustrated the many attempts by the technologically advanced British forces at capture of the Maroons, she was also involved in the negotiations for peace through the creation of a peace treaty, which led to certain recognition of the political economy that still exists today. She is considered with reverence as a queen mother figure for Jamaicans even in present day. She is, for me, the symbol of what a true ombuds should do, the guardian and protector of the community. As we celebrate women's achievement in ombuds organizations, in post-colonial societies, let us recognize the women who went before us, who laid the foundation for today to be possible. Because our rise to positions such as ombuds did not start yesterday. It started with our foreparents' fight for equality and for justice. That is where it started. So I say, let us acknowledge the women from our history. let us honor the pain and sacrifices that they suffered to make today possible. I submit to you that without them, today may never have been possible. For my part, I claim no praise and I seek no accolades. As I stand on the shoulders of Queen Nanny and all women whose courage and sacrifice have paved the way for us in Ombuds associations today. Historically, women were not just assistants to male social justice activists, as some sexist narratives would have us believe. They were advocates for rights in their own right, and we stand on their shoulders today in praise of the foundation of courage and sacrifice that they laid for us. So today, let us sing praise songs to the First Nation people of the Caribbean, the Taínos, the Aztecs, and the Mayas, who joined their men to protest European colonization and pioneer the culture of resistance in the Caribbean and Latin America. In this moment, we take time to reflect on the life of Bertha Cáceres, a prominent feminist environmental activist who was assassinated only in 2014 when she voiced the fight and voiced the concerns of indigenous people in Honduras who did not want hydroelectric dams scattered all over what they regard as ancestral and sacred land. Let us today honor the memory of these women. Were I to share the names of women, their struggles that made today possible, I would not be able to finish in the 18 minutes, but we could be here for the rest of the week. But before I look more closely at Ombuds, let us recall too the maroon women of Charlotte and Angelique of Dominica, who ably destabilized British colonialists. Let us honor Solitude of Guadeloupe, who after the Haitian Revolution and the extension of freedom to Guadeloupe and Martinique, joined in the struggle for lasting freedom, gaining for herself the designation of the heroine of Guadeloupe. We honor Nanny Brigg of Barbados, who along with Boussa struggled to end one of the greatest crimes against humanity in Barbados, and that is slavery. A leader of Suriname, Betta Douglas of St. Kitts and Nevis, who in 1825 demonstrated that the power of a hunger strike could be effective. Right across the Caribbean, we see women who were regarded as rebel women, who embodied the spirit of women's resistance to the system of domination. We sing praise songs for our ancestors, who themselves laid the foundation for women in Ombuds associations today. Women who resisted were not spared punishment because they were women. We faced the same horrific punishment of hanging or flogging. We today are the proud beneficiaries of those struggles. Our mandate as Ombuds is to learn from this legacy and to continue those struggles that started by our foreparents. It is therefore our duty, bound by the oath of office, the law, and our ancestral lineage, to be the vanguard in the protection of constitutional rights, which include human rights and civil liberties. In my jurisdiction, we face many burning and troubling situations we're balancing freedom, individual freedoms, privacy, with national security concerns. In this context, we have witnessed thousands of young men, mostly poor, unemployed, being detained without the legal requirements having been met. This, in going forward, like the Warner woman, you have to send signals of the potential damage and danger to the democracy that we have fought so hard for. Even in the midst of what we as public defender call unlawful detentions of these young men, there are other burning issues that face us on our small island that I'm sure affect each one in this room, and that is the need to protect our environment, to protect it for the generations that will come after us. These, the matter of individual liberty, privacy rights, and the protection of our environment are the issues that we see as urgent and in need of attention by public defenders and ombuds. Mr. Chairman, we would be happy at East Jamaica, including our political ombudsman, to provide the details of the other female ombudsman in the Caribbean region, because we have a female ombudsman in St. Lucia, Grenada, and Haiti. And we would be happy to help this organization in completing the documentation of female ombudsman. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your kind attention, and it has been a pleasure.
Can we please give another round of applause for this? That was wonderful. I noticed she thought she would not do it in Edimin, but she did. And when she opened her lecture, I saw the Ombudsman of Ghana nodding his head because he came alone. He has found a sister at this. So Ghana, you can clap for yourself. We Nigerians are also clapping. Thank you very much. That was a wonderful one. And we've heard clearly, first she indicated the basic, characteristics that a woman ombudsman possesses. I believe that they could be same for men. It's courage, independence, fair-mindedness, and sacrifice. So a woman who seeks to be a successful ombudsman must have these qualities to succeed. But again, she has confirmed that these spirits did not start today. They have ancestral origins. And she has ended up celebrating those women who passed before, not necessarily by the name ombudsman, but they fought against injustice. That is a standalone lecture in this session, so she concludes the session, and we will allow some time for questions and contributions from the floor. Thank you very much. So if you have a question or a contribution, try to be brief so that we can have more contributions from the floor. Okay, it looks to me like the lecture is so clear, so that nobody has any cause to question. We just enjoyed it. So can we give her a round of applause once again? Okay, so we're going to the second session. Now, the second session, we have two speakers. First will be Martha Chizuma, who's the Ombudsman of Malawi. And second will be Antonia Flobela. They will be speaking in one session because their topics are close to one another. While Caroline Sokone will speak in the third of the sessions. So the next two will speak before we take questions. I now have the pleasure to invite the Ombudsman of Malawi, Martha Chizuma, to the floor.
The Chief Ombudsman of Nigeria, or Ombudsman present here, both nation and sector, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Okay, so despite being mistaken for a Nigerian right from the time I landed at Abuja airport to almost the whole of yesterday, I'm actually from Malawi, and I do bring you greetings from the warm heart of Africa. I feel greatly honored to be participating in this first ever kind expo, and as I'm standing here, I can't help but to go back in January when I think early January, I got a call from Professor Ayeni, who was simply teasing out this idea of an expo later in the year. And so to be here and to see that idea coming to fruition is a moment of pride, not only for Professor Ayeni and GMSI, but I guess for the whole Ombudsman world. I'm further honored to be one of the speakers at this special event alongside the expo, where the women ombudsman leading ombudsman institutions across the globe are being acknowledged and honored. Again, for conceptualizing this idea, I say congratulations, Professor Ayeni. Actually, it is only through this special event that I've come to learn that in the last 200 years, there have been not less than 300 women who have led ombudsman institutions or other similar governance institutions across the globe. So, this morning, I've been asked to speak on the topic, Women Leading Ombudsman Institutions Effectively, Lessons and Experiences. Now, the general assumption there is quite heavy, and that is that the Malawian Ombudsman Office is efficient. Fact of the matter is that we still have issues and we're still learning a lot of things. But I think over the past 4 years, I've been Ombudsman of Malawi. I've seen some tangible improvements that have greatly improved the efficiency of the office, and these are what I would like to share with you this morning. The first thing I would like to share with you is about making the office relevant to the needs of the people in our respective countries. A few days ago, the United Nations Secretary General wrote on his Twitter page that the global wave of demonstrations that we are witnessing shows a lack of trust between the people and the political establishments. People are hating and want to be heard. We must listen to the real problems of real people and work to restore the social contract. This tweet resonated with me at so many levels, not only because of the political upheaval that Malawi is going through since we voted in May, but also in the context of what we do as ombudsman. The social contract, as most of you know, simply means a situation where citizens transfer their rights of individual governance to an entity called government or a sovereign ruler in exchange for that government or ruler ensuring fairness, good governance, and protection of human rights. It is my view, therefore, that if there's an institution that is so rightly placed to restore the social contract between the governments and the people, it's our institution of the Ombudsman, through investigating the injustices people report to us and holding our governments to account for the same. To be able to do this, the Office of the Ombudsman needs to be an institution that has to be infused with life. It has to go beyond an institution that is neatly laid out in the Constitution or the statute book, but one that actually intervenes, but also be seen to intervene on real issues affecting real people. And so going back to the issue of relevancy, when I took over the office in 2015, I found the office at a place where its relevancy to a larger population of Malawi was at its lowest. Despite having a wide mandate, the office had restricted itself to dealing with maladministration in employment matters involving civil servants. In other words, the Office of the Ombudsman had become a labor court for civil servants that form only less than 2% of the Malawi population. However, this was the time when Malawi was grappling with serious issues of public service delivery, high level of impunity, abuse of power, corruption, and human rights abuses. So whilst the Malawi Ombudsman does not have clear-cut jurisdiction or mandate over corruption per se, I've always believed that maladministration is a fertilizer, maladministration is the soil, and maladministration is the rain for corruption. And so to ensure that the office becomes relevant to these realistic issues affecting rural Malawians, we initiated what we called a repositioning agenda, which involved a 360-10 in the manner in which the office conducted business, and this involved the change of focus to maladministration cases in public service delivery, introduction of systemic investigation, and also on-motion investigation. Following this, in the past 4 years, the office has done 6 systemic investigations, some of which involve 2 of the most top ministries in the country over an issue of farming machinery that was bought using public funds for smallholder farmers, but ended up being sold at giveaway prices to top politicians in the country. This is an investigation that was litigated upon challenge by the Attorney General up to the highest court of the land, and has in many ways straightened or indeed clarified the jurisdiction of the Ombudsman in Malawi. We have investigated cases of systemic failures by Ministry of Health in the management of mental health services in the country. We have investigated failures of our district councils in the handling of children who live and work on the streets. We have investigated complaints of negligence, abuse by health workers in the handling of pregnant women, resulting in the removal of uteruses for so many women, most of them coming from the rural areas. We have also made further interventions in the form of the Hospital Ombudsman platform, where now we have people who we have trained, stationed at most health facilities in the country, intervening on behalf of patients at point of receipt of health services in cases of misconduct by a health worker or simply system failure. Through the mobile clinics vehicle, we have reached more than half of the country with our message and services. We have established within the office a special desk that deals with complaints involving people with disabilities, and we interface with people with groups that are representing people with disabilities almost twice every year. We have strengthened our relationship with Parliament, resulting in Parliament playing a greater role over our non-compliant determinations and reports than ever before. Actually, just this year, our Parliament just passed our budget, where one of the things that they put across to Minister of Finance was to make sure that to put a condition to the passing of the budget to an increase to the funding to the Office of the Ombudsman. This is the first ever time that this has happened, and we had support from both opposition and the governing MPs. The effect of all these interventions is that majority of Malawians now can relate with the Office of the Ombudsman. They know what the office does and how relevant it is to them. There is some sanity in health services because of a number of health officials that have either been dismissed or indeed gone through criminal proceedings as a result of misconducts that have been picked up following our intervention, and there is also significant improvement in responsiveness to the Ombudsman by most government departments. All this has been achieved by making the office relevant to Malawians through intervening in issues that really matter to them in their daily lives. The second thing that I feel has largely helped the Office of the Ombudsman and is worth sharing is recognizing the importance of the staff within the office. One of the most prominent management gurus in the world, Peter Drucker, once said that the most valuable asset of a 21st century institution, whether business or non-business, will be the knowledge of its workers and their productivity. When I became ombudsman, all I had was a strategy and a vision for the office. It was my staff, the legal staff, the research staff, the investigation staff, with support from the administrative staff, that would actually deliver on the vision. Without them, the whole thing would collapse. It is therefore important that the work environment is one that is fair and one that staff feels safe to be. It is important to remove any toxicity from the workplace of the ombudsman. You know, as ombudsman, we come and go. And as we come and go, sometimes we create and leave allegiances within the office that can sometimes be totally unhealthy for the incoming ombudsman. The mistake any ombudsman would make is to be sucked into the whole thing and perpetuate the situation further. Once the temptation is there, we should avoid doing that, and I'm glad that at the very onset of my term, I picked on it and tried to diffuse it. Doing that helped me to trust the employees, which enabled me to get more from them beyond their job description. It has provided an environment where they have gone an extra mile and have been able to use their excellent brains and heads on the job, thereby coming up with excellent innovations far beyond what I had imagined. This is what has pushed the Office of the Ombudsman Malawi further and to a place where it is now. The other thing that I thought I could share, but which I totally feel uncomfortable about, is about ethics and integrity. I feel totally uncomfortable to talk about it because, let's face it, it is not an easy subject. And whenever I have to speak about this, I always question myself if I have the moral stand to do the same. You cannot preach ethics without conviction when yourself you have no ethical attributes. However, it is inherent, you may agree with me, it is inherent in the ombudsmanship that high levels of ethics and integrity are demanded of us. We cannot be pointing out maladministration in other offices and expect them to take us seriously if we are doing the very same things we are condemning them on. It is actually, in my view, a mockery of the position itself. And for the ombudsman, such ethical conduct doesn't have to be so serious like corruption. It can be something as simple as being on time at work, delivering on deadlines, and adherence to office policies. Let's face it, leadership matters, and institutions like ours largely take after the character of the person leading it. Accordingly, if we are to be effective ombudsman institutions, we need to make sure that we have set the right tone at the top. Last but not least, we need just to accept the fact that this job is not and shall never be easy. It's a tough job. You see, once we traditionally honor the Swedes for the institution of the ombudsman in its present form, history books will tell us that the original concept actually came from Turkey and was adopted by the Swedes, who later popularized it to the whole world. History tells us that it was in the 1700s, during the time of so many wars in Europe, that King Charles fled to Sweden and sought refuge in Turkey. Whilst there, he formed friendship with a local Muslim chief. And through that friendship, he observed that the chief would periodically meet with an officer whom he had appointed, who would bring him complaints from the citizens in his area. This got King Charles of Sweden thinking about how his judges and other public officers were treating the citizens in his home country of Sweden. And that is when he appointed the ombudsman in the 1800s, who would ensure that the public officials are doing their work properly and not ill-treating citizens. The point I'm trying to make is that as ombudsman, we have to be people, or that person that the people can approach, those that are being rude, the plebeians, and also have the guts to speak to the powers that be. Balancing that dynamic is not easy at all, and on almost all occasions, without any fault on our part, we find ourselves on the wrong side of the powers that be. Even where you are doing your job within the law and with the best of intentions, they will still try to mud you with all sorts of allegations, reduce your budget, and give you all sorts of political colors. One thing that has helped me is to determine within my heart that so long as I've acted within the law and with the best of intentions and judgment, I just get on with it. A month or so ago, I was invited by the newly appointed Minister of Justice back home to have an interface with him on a number of general issues. One of the first questions that he asked me was, why do you hate government so much? I must admit it took me aback. But after collecting myself, I asked him, is that your perception or you really have got a good basis for saying that? Well, he could not give me any good answer to that. And so I told him that settles it then. But after a long discussion on what the Ombudsman does and everything, I remember him saying, to be quite honest, Martha, if I was an ordinary man without all these public titles and whatever, just an ordinary man on the street, you are the ombudsman that I would like to have. The point I'm trying to make is that this job is not and will never be easy. In my considered view, only time that an ombudsman has totally been in good books with the government is when that government is totally perfect, or indeed that ombudsman is totally useless. We all know there shall never be a totally perfect government. So if we are to be effective, we simply need to toughen up and just try to do the best we can with the little that we get. In closing, considering the context within which I'm making this presentation, it would be amiss of me if I do not briefly talk about a certain flavor of passion that a woman brings to the position of ombudsman that, in my view, makes a whole lot of a difference. We all know that when disaster strikes or when there's a war, it is women who suffer most, as they carry the double burden of suffering as the rest of the people, but also taking care of the young and the old. All that falls on a woman. But the same goes to consequences of maladministration, corruption, high levels of impunity, and human rights abuses, which lead to poverty, deprivation, and all kinds of injustices. Women are the ones that take the double brunt of this, and therefore suffer twice. I know I speak for myself, and for most female ombudsmen in this conference, that when we intervene in cases like this, it sure comes from that place of pain and empathy. That on its own makes it easy for us as women to remove that ombudsman clown and simply get down to the level of the complainant or the victim and just be a woman intervening on behalf of a fellow woman or a victim. It is at this point that this job matters most. And this morning I'm so glad that I'm amongst such group of women who have and continue fighting against these injustices and promoting social justice. I say kudos to you, and may God richly bless you for your honorable service. I thank you for your attention.
Another round of applause, please. I think that if I only read their resume, they are proving it now before you. So it's not what I told you, it's what you are hearing yourselves, that they are qualified and competent persons in their offices. A few lessons. Women ombudsmen, they succeed because they're a little more to the side of women and children. That is what I got. Because she carried out investigation on matters relating to health, to children and pregnant women. And most times she goes down to be an ordinary woman to help the woman. But she's also helping the men. So don't think she's only working for the woman. But very importantly, her strategies are very clear. First, you have to make the ombudsman relevant to the community. That's the only way they begin to look at it. Secondly, you must invest in your staff and have confidence in them. And she says, because they'll always be there, you will come and go, but the staff will be there. So if you have confidence and you invest in them, then you improve their skills and you'll be able to take the glory for the good services that you render. Of course, you have to walk, not only just do the talk, but walk the talk on integrity and also on etiquette. And then, of course, you have to be bold to be able to talk to the powers that be. If you have those, you will succeed. And that is why the Ombudsman of Malawi is succeeding. Thank you very much once again, madam. We will take the second lecture in this session which is to be delivered by Antonia Flobela Rocha Arujojo. She will give the lecture, and I'm sure you need to get your language equipment ready. I'm sure she will not be speaking in English. So those who are not, who have been listening in English, please get your equipment ready. My pleasure, therefore, to welcome to the podium the Ombudsman of the Republic of Angola. Thank you.
Good morning, buenos dias, bom dia a todos. Com destaque para as entidades do governo da Nigéria, se estiverem cá, da Associação dos Provedores de Justiça, a OMA, do Provedor da Nigéria e outros ombudsmen presentes ou representados por outras entidades. Distintos convidados, caros delegados, minhas senhoras e meus senhores. É com imenso prazer que estou neste fórum a representar o Provedor de Justiça de Angola, o Dr. Carlos Alberto Ferreira Pinto, que agradece o convite e remete as suas felicitações à organização do evento. Uma palavra de gratidão ao professor Dr. Vitor Ayene, que conheci o ano passado em Londres, quando frequentei um curso sobre líderes do Ombudsman. Incentivou-me a gostar do papel do Ombudsman, porque sempre fui defensora dos direitos humanos, mas nunca pensei desempenhar estas funções de Deputy Ombudsman. Porque a minha experiência profissional foi sempre como professora de base, do curso médio, superior e, por último, da carreira universitária desde o ano de 2000. Também foi líder de várias instituições, como disse já o nosso apresentador, no Secretariado do Conselho de Ministros, na Casa Civil do Presidente da República, onde desempenhei funções de diretora do gabinete do chefe da Casa Civil, consultora, assessora e, nos últimos 10 anos, secretária para os assuntos judiciais e jurídicos do Presidente da República. Daí a minha experiência para ir ocupar o cargo de Deputy Ombudsman. O painel que vou falar sobre mulheres líderes no setor de Provedoria de Justiça e instituição de supervisão, eu dividi em 5 tópicos, mas claro, como o tempo é curto, vou-me incidir mais nas questões sobre Angola. O primeiro ponto seria noções gerais sobre liderança, toda a gente já sabe isso. O segundo seria habilidade e conhecimentos para melhorar a eficácia do pessoal da instituição. O terceiro seria o papel de liderança que as mulheres líderes desempenharam e desempenham nas instituições do Ombudsman ao longo dos anos. O quarto é como as mulheres podem ajudar os Ombudsman no tratamento de reclamações. O quinto, o caso do Provedor de Justiça e da Provedora Adjunta em Angola. Por último, a igualdade do género e empoderamento das mulheres em Angola e conclusões e sugestões. O que é então a liderança? Portanto, é o exercício de liderança tem tido foco nas várias pesquisas ao longo da sua história. E a liderança é a condução de um grupo de pessoas que transformam-se numa equipe que gera resultados, a habilidade de motivar e influenciar os liderados de forma ética e positiva para que contribuam voluntariamente e com entusiasmo a fim de alcançarem os objetivos da equipa e da organização. No entanto, há que realçar uma diferença entre o líder e chefe, sendo que o líder se responsabiliza por uma tarefa ou atividade de uma organização e que para tal comanda um grupo de pessoas, tendo a autoridade de mandar e exigir obediência. Para as atuais organizações de ombudsman, é necessário as competências do líder e não somente do chefe. Para tal, é necessário algumas qualidades. Visão, a qualidade mais importante da liderança. Coragem, a habilidade de socorrer riscos. Integridade é a palavra-mãe de todas as qualidades. Responsabilidade, que significa como toma os seus acertos. Vitória, foco permanente no que deve ser conquistado. Cooperação, a habilidade de trabalhar com as pessoas e permitir que elas contribuam. Motivação, a habilidade de valorizar o trabalhador e buscar que o mesmo se dedica ao serviço, procurando estimular e resolver os problemas deste sempre possível. Nas habilidades e competências para melhorar a eficácia do pessoal da instituição, enquanto provedora de justiça adjunta da República de Angola, ou Deputy Ombudsman, tenho o papel de coadjuvar o provedor de justiça com vista a alavancar a instituição e tenho adotado uma liderança democrática, ou seja, oriento os funcionários e incentivo a participação de todos, permitindo uma abertura na apresentação de sugestões ou propostas que levam a melhorar o andamento da instituição. Procuro igualmente desenvolver uma liderança formadora, cultivar pessoas para o sucesso, tendo como fonte de inspiração a sua própria capacidade intelectual e transformá-las em futuros líderes ou menos proporcionais ao caminho para tal. Geralmente tenho desenvolvido uma comunicação espontânea, franca, cordial, com todos os funcionários da Provedoria de Justiça, para permitir que o trabalho possa ser desenvolvido num clima mais propício à produtividade, interação, espírito do grupo, confiança e respeito. Por outro lado, sempre adotei um sistema de descentralização das atividades, por meio de incentivo à participação de todos no processo de trabalho e nas metas a serem alcançadas. Porque considero que um verdadeiro líder é aquele que não concentra o trabalho, procede ao acompanhamento pessoal das tarefas executadas e concede a possibilidade de todos que apoiam para poderem ser verdadeiros colaboradores. Quanto ao papel da liderança que as mulheres desempenham em várias instituições, convém destacar que nos primórdios as mulheres desempenhavam um papel de relevo na organização, mas tinham somente papel na vida familiar. Claro que nós já sabemos todos que toda essa questão foi sendo ultrapassada, e em especial com várias conferências, entre elas destacar a conferência de Beijing, onde a mulher ganhou mais força como defensora dos direitos das mulheres e das crianças, tendo-se destacado na luta pelos direitos humanos, nos direitos, liberdades e garantias de cidadão. Como as mulheres podem ajudar o ombudsman no tratamento das reclamações? No caso de Angola, como coadjutor do Provedor de Justiça de Angola, o meu contributo inicial no sentido de garantir o melhor tratamento das reclamações, os funcionários da instituição para aumentarem, melhorarem e tornarem mais céleres no tratamento das queixas e reclamações de cidadãos, porque o cidadão não pode esperar. O cidadão é a nossa preocupação, o cidadão é a nossa ocupação. Tenho procurado sugerir uma melhor gestão do quadro pessoal, sendo importante saber como motivar e dar recompensas ao pessoal da instituição. Após a tomada de posse dos atuais Provedor de Justiça e Provedora de Justiça adjunta, no dia 21 de janeiro do ano 2018, procurei conhecer bem o trabalho da Provedoria de Justiça, as dificuldades e lacunas dos funcionários e da instituição e outros aspectos exogêneos ligados a este órgão. Deste modo, em fevereiro, após conversa com Sua Excelência o Provedor de Justiça de Angola, fui designada coordenadora da comissão que elaborou as propostas de alteração das atuais leis que regem o Ombudsman em Angola, que infelizmente são do ano 2006, e demais documentos complementares. Foi assim que elaboramos o Plano Anual de Atividades do Ombudsman para o ano 2018, o Plano Estratégico da Provedoria de Justiça 2018-2022, o Plano de Comunicação Institucional da Provedoria de Justiça 2018-2019, as propostas de lei do Estatuto do Provedor de Justiça e Orgânica da Provedoria de Justiça, que se encontram no Conselho de Ministros para serem apreciadas e provavelmente ainda este ano sejam aprovadas pela Assembleia Nacional, o projeto de decreto presidencial que aprova a carreira do funcionário da Provedoria de Justiça e o respectivo regulamento. Por outro lado, sugeri ao Provedor de Justiça que fosse aprovado um regulamento provisório para a tramitação das reclamações por forma a garantir um processo descentralizado, mais célere, informal, para o alcance da eficiência nas respostas dos cidadãos, tendo em conta que o processo que encontramos era muito moroso. Fruto da experiência que tive quando desempenhei as funções de secretária para os assuntos judiciais e jurídicos do Presidente da República, nós conseguimos fazer uma mudança com este regulamento para o tratamento das queixas e reclamações, para as audiências, e o ano passado o nosso relatório foi muito positivo. Tivemos um aumento de mais de 200%, aproximadamente 300%, do tratamento de queixas, reclamações, audiências e palestras de sensibilização ao cidadão. Para tal, o que é que imprimi? Clareza de propósito, acesso, fui flexível, tornei mais eficiente e célere, tornei menos informal e apliquei os estilos visionário, conselheiro, relacional e pressionador. Pressionador muitas vezes não compreendido, mas para atingir os objetivos difíceis, estimulantes, com os parcos recursos financeiros que estão à disposição do Provedor de Justiça, tendo em conta a crise financeira que o país atravessa desde o ano 2014, com a queda do preço do petróleo, foi necessário, porque a liderança é condicionada pelas reações e comportamentos humanos. Mas é imprescindível que se faça essa mudança. E recordo-me que o professor Ayane dizia, mudança não é aceita na primeira vez. Sempre se resiste à mudança, mas só com mudanças podemos reverter o quadro e melhorar o trabalho. Nesse trabalho de coadjutora do Provedor de Justiça, elaboramos palestras para sensibilizar a população sobre o papel do Provedor de Justiça e sobre as questões relacionadas com a defesa dos direitos, liberdades e garantias do cidadão. Estou mesmo no fim. Então, quais são os comentários que nós temos fruto dessa experiência? Partilha de algumas experiências vividas nos cargos de liderança que já me referi. Destaque sobre a qualidade de mulher e mãe defensora dos direitos dos trabalhadores, dos cidadãos em geral. Destaque para várias conferências internacionais que já preferiu o apresentador, onde preferia algumas palestras sobre defesa dos direitos das mulheres e crianças. Também, além dessas palestras também, porque fiz parte de algumas comissões, de algumas organizações internacionais que têm permitido que participe a nível internacional como vice-presidente da Associação das Mulheres Marítimas, Portuárias e Atividades Conexas de Angola, membro da UIMA África, Organização Marítima Internacional, por ter um mestrado na área de Ciências Jurídicas Internacionais e um livro sobre Direito do Mar. Para terminar, então, já que o tempo eu queria só dizer que a luta das mulheres para alcançarem posições de liderança na comunidade, a título de conclusão, é sob qualquer prisma uma tarefa difícil, tanto a nível de Angola, da África ou a nível mundial. E na qualidade de provedora de justiça adjunta da República de Angola, neste painel de discussão, tenho as seguintes notas para recomendar à organização e às mulheres. Se você é livre, precisa libertar alguém. Se você tem poder, então seu trabalho é empoderar outra pessoa. Cause impacto em cada tarefa que você recebe. Olhe para elas pensando em como levar isso para o próximo nível e seja confiante sobre si mesmo. Nós, mulheres, somos a força motriz para alavancar de um mundo melhor, longe da tamanha e gritante desigualdade de género que temos verificado. A igualdade do género começa com a igual valorização de meninas e meninos e com a defesa dos respectivos direitos fundamentais do cidadão, constantes tanto da nossa Constituição como dos vários instrumentos internacionais. Entretanto, reconhecemos que ainda é preciso avançar em muitos aspectos, dada a herança cultural que a mulher tem na sociedade. Neste sentido, cabe à organização criar uma cultura inclusiva e focada em gestão por competências para desfrutar da liderança feminina de maneira estratégica em todos os setores da vida econômica, social, assim como na defesa dos direitos, liberdades e garantias do cidadão, que é o papel do Ombudsman. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Graças. Muito obrigado.
Can we do a better round of applause again? We have, listened to the agreement in the two talks that have just been given on that topic, which is the same, and close to one another, like I said. And the Deputy Ombudsman of Angola has emphasized on applying previous experience. She acknowledged that her previous experience as a teacher has been of immense benefit to her performance as the Deputy Ombudsman of Angola. She has also again emphasized the same thing about staffing. Investing in your staff, the fact that you must be a model leader to your staff so they can see what you are doing, same as was said about being an ethical leader in leadership, about integrity and responsibility, and that there must be constant staff motivation for you to get the best out of them. Now, she also says you have to be equitable and fair to all staff, but above all, you must be a leader who delegates. That when you take all the jobs, you're on your way to failure. But when you delegate the jobs to your competent staff, then you just wait at the other end to have the finished products. She also emphasized participatory governance, part of all staff, and came to the special qualities of women, these qualities that are intrinsic in women, the motherly care that women have. She said it plays out a good role in the position of having a woman as an ombudsman. And that, she also acknowledges the job is not an easy one. But just like the previous speaker, the common sense is that when the going gets tough, then the tough get going. So an ombudsman must be tough. And women are succeeding because from history, they have always been fighters for the rights of the people. And that is why they come naturally into this function of ombudsman. That is about summary of her presentation, and we now open the floor, having listened to the two, for questions and contributions. So if you have a question or contribution in this regard, you can now just put up your hand and then we recognize you. Yes, please. Where is the microphone? Yes.
Thank you very much, Director.
Yes, the whole Haiti will be listening.
Yes,
Anybody could answer. So just be understand.
I'm the Ombudsman of Botswana. Let me first of all congratulate the panelists for a very comprehensive presentation and also thank them for the good work they're doing in their countries. I have two questions, but the first one will be also a comment. I think it's with respect to the presentation by the Ombudsman of Malawi, with respect to the complaints that are coming from the members of the public service, the public servants. You know, I think it's a similar situation that I'm facing, where I have more complaints from the public servants as opposed to the members of the public. Now that you wonder if so many complaints are coming from members of the public service. Now, how about the public members of the public? They should be worse off, because they are the ones who would normally complain against the public servants. So I just wanted to understand what she did, if she did anything, in terms of ensuring that those complaints coming from the public servants get reduced. You know, sometimes, like in my situation, we get about 58% in a year, which is, I think, it's on the high side. So if there are any things that you did which sort of ameliorated the situation, I would like to get tips from you. The second one, you said that the Parliament agreed to the budget of the Ministry of Finance on condition that they increase your budget. So I was just wondering how you managed to get that support from members of Parliament to ensure that you get an increase in your budget. What did you do? I mean, I always find it very difficult to get any increase. To battle with the Ministry of Finance to get budgets is always you see, the problem is that they always, if there are cuts to be made, they are made across the board, including even ourselves, the oversight institutions. We get affected. So I just wanted to get how you did that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, yes. Cameron.
Thank you very much. I'm Senator Ngayab from Cameroon. I would like, first of all, congratulate the panelists for their brilliant presentation. I'm very glad to see that all of them are women. I would first want to know whether the institution of Ombuds is in the constitution of your countries, or is it only a product of a law or regulatory act? Because depending on the level of the creation of your body depends the power you can have and the budget you can have to manage your institution. I also want to know whether when you work, you have the support of the different branches of the power. I remember that the Ombuds of Malawi told us how the executive was questioning the support you can give them, or if you are against the government. But concerning the three branches of the government, I would like to know whether you always have the support of them. And finally, I don't know if in the future you can imagine the modification of the boundary of your power. Do you need more power to exercise your duty, or are you okay with the power you have today to do your job? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other question or contribution from the floor? Okay, that appears to be just about it. So we now open up the floor for the high table. Ombudsman of Malawi, you will talk first.
Okay, thank you. So let me attempt to answer some of the questions. How did we reduce the complaints from the public servants? So as I said, around 2015, when I became ombudsman, we had probably 95% of the cases being complaints by public servants, civil servants. These will be cases of unfair dismissals, gratuities, and all sorts of things. That's why I said the office was almost like a labor court of civil servants. And it left out a whole lot of Malawians outside it kind of pushed away a whole lot of Malawians. And yet, the jurisdiction that I have, the mandate is very wide, is to investigate injustices suffered by all people at the hands of government. So what we did first was to look at the numbers, how much do we have, and come up with a plan on reducing those. But at the same time, we spoke with the courts, the Industrial Relations Court, that from now onwards, we'll be pushing all the labor-related cases to you, because you have the primary jurisdiction. So for cases coming from areas that there is no labor court, or the labor court does not do assizes there, then those would still get, because we knew that if we push them away, that probably will be the last time that case or complaint will ever see the corridors of justice. So we still get some, but there's been a tremendous reduction, probably by 70%. So we have a few, but most of them are now going to the labor courts. And right now, most of the complaints that we have in the office are to do with negligence in service delivery, delay in service delivery, abuse of power, those cases that really affect everyone in the country. How did we get Parliament to increase our budget? Yeah, it was also quite amazing for us. It was I couldn't even believe it the first time that they I was like, what's going on here? So usually before the budget is debated on the floor in the National Assembly, we have these cluster meetings where a particular group of parliamentarians interfaces with you so that you explain the budget further to them. It was at that meeting when they saw that out of all the governance institutions, the accountability institutions, the Office of the Ombudsman is the one that was lowly funded, that they said, based on the performance of this office and looking at how many of our constituents have been assisted by this office, we put our foot down. We are not going to pass that judgment until you increase. So they invited the Minister of Finance to explain and to look at other areas on the budget where he can get some funding for the office. So it wasn't like they gave us all that we probably wished for, but they did increase by quite a significant amount. And we got support, not only from the opposition parties, parliamentarians, but also from government itself. Because I guess the results that we are probably providing for the country are real. People can actually see they are something that no one can actually deny. They are actually in their face. So that has really worked for us. Yes, our institution is provided for in the Constitution. So it's a constitutional creation, but it is also complemented by the Ombudsman Act. Actually, there's something very peculiar about the way our office was actually drafted in the Constitution. Whilst all the other constitutional governance bodies are supposed to operate independently, for the Ombudsman, and this is very peculiar, they said the Ombudsman office shall be completely independent. So the others are independent, but the Ombudsman is supposed to be completely independent. And another thing is that the Ombudsman is the only governance institution that is completely appointed by the recruitment process starts and ends in Parliament. There's no executive power over it. Do you have support from all the three branches of the government? Yes, Parliament is the best. I think they really help us. It's been amazing. It has made our job easy. Executive, no, we tussle a lot. But we get along, we find a way of getting along. The judiciary has been very crucial in interpreting our law, because what we have done with all these things that we're doing now, we found ourselves at a place where we are stretching the provisions of the law. And you find people always going to court to challenge us, and you have the courts explaining, trying to clarify the jurisdiction of the ombudsman. So it has all worked for our good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We request, does she have any questions for her side? Otherwise, then let's allow Jamaica to.
Thank you. We operate under ordinary legislation called the Public Defender Interim Act. So there's a little background. Jamaica had its first ombudsman in 1978. The first Caribbean region to have an ombudsman before that was Guyana. Then second was Jamaica, third was Barbados, fourth Trinidad and Tobago. And over time, more and more jurisdictions added the institution of ombudsman as part of its democratic process. So we have been operating since 2000 under what is regarded as an interim act. Now, you asked whether or not our office is included in the Constitution of Jamaica. The answer is no. What the current legislation says is that it will be included in the Constitution. Now, we have been waiting for 19 years for that interim act to become a permanent act and for the office to be entrenched in our Constitution, as it is in Trinidad, Barbados, Guyana. So we believe that this is absolutely necessary for the protection of rights in Jamaica. At home, currently, there is a debate about the Office of the Public Defender being expanded to include or to grow into a National Human Rights Commission. We have been having this debate for quite a good long time, and there seemed to be broad agreement that the Office of the Public Defender will assume the role of a national human rights institution. We too try to press hard on our boundaries in terms of jurisdiction. But last year, our Court of Appeal turned us back when we sought to be an interested party in a constitutional challenge regarding gay rights. And the Court of Appeal said, no, you do not have jurisdiction, you are investigators. So we will not allow you to be joined as an interested, only to be able to give submissions. The question of whether or not we need more power, I believe that it is critical for our office to be entrenched rather than to rely on what I call a parliamentary promise. Do we need more powers? We need a broader mandate in respect of human rights and civil liberties. Though, under our jurisdiction, we have funding to provide a complainant with an attorney at law to take a matter to court. How do we get on with the executive arm of government? We try our best to get on with them, but I think you would appreciate that there are natural tensions. So, for instance, when you detain young men poor unemployed without having the proper legal basis, you will hear us, which is in direct collision course with the executive arm of government. And we are not afraid to let them know our position. And it does create tensions, but we understand that as long as we are true to our oath and our mandate, we're fine with whatever adverse comments that they will make. Our appointment as public defender is not done by Parliament. And this is something even in the thinking out of the National Commission for Human Rights that is part of the debate. I'm appointed by the Governor General and approved by the Prime Minister and the Leader of Opposition. And that is how it has always been. We have too tried to become more relevant under our current dispensation of connecting with communities, because we do many outreach programs in communities. We partner with several other agencies and civil society in providing service, because that is the essential part of our work. Service to the community so that their lives can be better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure all the questions have been satisfactorily answered. And we will now move to the last special talk in this morning segment. And that is on the topic, the Ombudsman Institution in the achievement of SDGs 5, issues and lessons of experience, which will be delivered by Caroline Z. Sokoni, who is the Public Protector of Zambia. It's now my pleasure to invite Caroline to the dais.
Esteemed colleagues, the Chief Ombudsman of Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I feel doubly honored to be addressing you today because I have been to Nigeria once before, but I think at the last occasion when I visited Nigeria, I did not have the occasion to see all the 36 commissioners from the 36 states, and I acknowledge you, esteemed colleagues. So for me, it is really an honor. And also, again, I would like to, the Chief Ombudsman of Nigeria informed me that there are 3 commissioners who are female, and I would like to acknowledge them. If they are here, could they please stand? Could they please stand? Could we give them a hand? Thank you, esteemed colleagues. I would like to encourage each one of us here at this August Assembly. Ombudsmanship is really about Africa. Africa needed this institution. And if I have to draw a caricature of ombudsmanship in Africa, I would show it like these African boys rushing to the finish line where it's saying become an ombudsman. We literally rushed, we were literally running to grasp the concept of ombudsmanship. Tanzania introduced the concept of the ombudsman in Africa in 1966, before even the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom introduced ombudsmanship in 1967. So I want to say to Africa, you are the champions of ombudsmanship. I reiterate what my colleague, the Public Protector of South Africa, said. No offense to our colleagues in Europe. We own ombudsmanship here in Africa. We don't have to look to them for authority. The books should be written here. The training materials should be developed here. The expos should be held in Africa. Thank you, Chief Ombudsman of Nigeria, for holding the first Ombudsman Expo in the world in Nigeria. This is where it was supposed to be held. I move on to the topic under discussion, the Ombudsman Institution in the achievement of SDG 5, issues and lessons of experience. From the start, the development of the Millennium Development Goals was more of a third world agenda. We are the ones who don't have sufficient water. We are the ones who don't have sufficient education. We are the ones who have high mortality rates for our pregnant women. So when we talk about SDG 5, probably it will not be an issue in Europe, and probably it will not be an issue in America. But in Africa, it's very, very, very relevant, and it's our agenda. The institution of the Ombudsman in Africa has existed since 1966 with the establishment of the office by Tanzania. Africa was quick to appreciate the importance of an institution which could be used as an affordable and accessible complaints handling mechanism for people at the grassroots. During the late 60s and the 70s, females in positions of authority were a very rare occurrence the world over. Women in high managerial or political positions were still a rarity. Africa scored the first really by embracing the era of human rights and quickly planting ombudsman offices all over the continent. By 1974, 3 ombudsman offices had been established on the African continent. As I stated earlier, colleagues, Africa is not a baby in the sphere of human rights because of how early we planted ombudsman institutions on this continent. And as I stated, we do not have to look to Europe or America for guidance in the area of ombudsmanship. Africa is one of the pioneer continents in ombudsmanship. I think even Asia started pretty early. India established an ombudsman office in 1967 at the same time as Tanzania. New Zealand was the first country to establish the institution of the ombudsman outside of Scandinavia. 53 years later, from 1966, we now have over 50 ombudsman institutions on the continent. However, the agenda of the Ombudsman Institution has been to investigate maladministration, where there are hybrid institutions. They will investigate maladministration and human rights, maladministration and corruption. It is actually, how should I say, appropriate that some of these hybrid institutions have these double mandates. Because the reason why we are talking about SDG 5 is because of the proliferation of corruption. We are talking about SDG 5 and the other SDGs as well. They proliferate where there is maladministration, where there is corruption, where human rights are not being respected. So it is understood why if Africa has also embraced the concept of the hybrid ombudsman. I would like to submit that because Africa was so ready and so willing to embrace the ombudsman concept, we are always very ready to help our people. However, in the practical realization of those promises that we make to our people, in the practical implementation, our people get left behind, and I will explain why in this paper. In recent years, countries in Africa have improved the status of women and promoted gender equality by increasingly appointing women to various offices, especially to the office of ombudsman. There has been a proliferation of appointment of women to the office of ombudsman. Uganda has had a female inspector general of government for several years. Botswana and Lesotho have appointed female ombudspersons on at least one occasion. South Africa has had 2 female ombudspersons appointed to the office. Burkina Faso has had 3 females appointed to the office of ombudsman. And may I mention that one of the ombudspersons for Burkina Faso was very instrumental in maintaining peace during the time that the country had civil war. So we do take up that role as well. Malawi has had 2 female ombudspersons so far. To my recollection, Tunisia and Mali have each appointed at least 1 female to the office of ombudsman. Among the island states, Madagascar and Seychelles have female ombudspersons, as well as the children's ombudsman of Mauritius. Ethiopia had a female ombudsperson who also served as the AU representative for AOMA. Africa is not afraid to tread new ground. Africa has always been ready to break records. Africa is already creating jurisprudence in the area of ombudsmanship like no other continent. It is only in a female-led African ombudsman era, that 3 jurisdictions have so far had decisions from the courts making the recommendations of the ombudsman binding. The law is being tested like no other time in Africa. Cases in point are South Africa, Malawi, Zambia, Kenya. Kenya had a recent decision where the recommendations of the ombudsman there have been declared as binding. This illustrates to us that the classical ombudsman model needs to be adopted to modern needs, and hence the landmark decisions being passed in several jurisdictions in the area of ombudsmanship. Ombudsmanship in Africa has become robust and active. Each and every year for the last 10 years, trainings have been ongoing, organized by Africans, for Africans. By AOMA. AOMA has grown from strength to strength. The countries appointing females to the office of ombudsman in Africa have helped to build a strong culture of representation of both male and female leadership in terms of ombudsmanship on the African continent. The question that must be asked is as to whether this has been translated into positive gains in the area of female empowerment on the ground in individual countries. Most African countries still face many challenges in terms of fully displaying and utilizing women's potential in leadership positions. In September 2015, the United Nations adopted the Sustainable Development Goals. Of relevance to our discussion is the impact of ombudsmanship in Africa towards the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, and in particular, Sustainable Development Goal 5 of achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. It is well that governments are appointing female ombudspersons, but the question is it permeating to the grassroots? Is the impact being felt at the grassroots? If not, what has to be done? I recall that when Barack Obama was elected as President of the United States, he finished the whole 10 years and he just was a president. He was an ordinary American president, and people were asking, but why didn't he do something for Africa? And Black Americans were saying, he didn't do anything for us. So, is it as difficult for us as female ombudsmen, for our impact to be felt at the grassroots? Do we feel that we will be discriminating if we do more for women? It is well and good. I am an ombudsman, yes. But am I touching the lives of females at the grassroots? Has the representation of women being appointed to the office of ombudsman assisted to improve the status of women in terms of respect for the human rights of women, safety in the home, schools, and places of work, as well as in the areas of economic advancements and political representation? The Sustainable Development Goals provide a blueprint for achieving a better and more sustainable world by 2030. Sustainable Development Goal number 5 promotes gender equality and empowerment for women and girls across the world. Women's equality and empowerment is one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, but also integral to all dimensions of inclusive and sustainable development. In short, all the SDGs depend on the achievement of Goal 5. The question is it possible for the development of Sustainable Development Goal 5 to be made a reality, the realization of this goal to be made a reality through the office of the Ombudsman? Currently, women's equality and empowerment has received great support. Gender-friendly policies and laws have been put in place in order to make the world an easier place to live and work in. Laws against gender-based violence, gender discrimination, and sexual harassment have been promoted and enacted. Yet, these laws, I feel, remain the most underutilized pieces of legislation. Generally speaking, women represent over 50% of the population, yet they are disproportionately or underrepresented as victims in the criminal justice system. Women rarely file criminal complaints. This is due to the fact that they are often victimized by persons who are either related to them or well known to them. Perpetrators are usually people who are placed in a position of trust over them. For criminal offenses, female victims must report the crime and the perpetrator of the offense occasioned upon their person to the police. However, much has been written and discussed regarding the issue of double victimization within the criminal justice system. Victims are often averse to being exposed to a criminal justice system, which in most circumstances is neither victim-friendly nor accessible enough in terms of the basic procedures and legal costs. I mention this aspect because in the target goals for SDG 5, they talk about female genital mutilation, bringing female genital mutilation to an end, bringing child marriages to an end, but how can the office of the Ombudsman bring these issues to the fore in order to make the office accessible for victims who find that they cannot go to the police, victims who find that they cannot go to the courts. What is the role of the Ombudsman Office in that situation? Similarly, in the workplace, there are a lot of challenges a woman faces. Obtaining employment means a number of hurdles have already been overcome. Discrimination in the workplace is suffered in silence and is rarely brought to the fore. The pattern replicates itself from the home to the shop floor to the proverbial glass ceiling. In the home setting, women and girls perform the bulk of unpaid care and domestic work. This leaves women and girls working longer hours with less time for rest, self-care, learning, and pursuing a career. According to a report of the UN Secretary General, an average woman does 3 times as much unpaid care and domestic work as a man. Unpaid care work benefits all of us, but women and girls carry the disproportionate share, thus curbing their potential. How can the Ombudsman facilitate access to justice for women to be able to achieve this goal? And why is SDG 5 considered to be the bedrock of achieving the remaining sustainable development goals? We are saying that if we achieve Sustainable Development Goal 5, then it will be easier to overcome all the other Sustainable Development Goals. In a world where women are disadvantaged from the cradle to the grave, there is a very important role the institution of the Ombudsman can play in order to make women more competitive, more confident, and more valued. Illiteracy is more common among women than men. If we have to take statistics from Zambia, only slightly more than a quarter of Zambian women reach secondary level school education. Although 51% of the population is female, women only hold less than 12% of the seats in parliament. Government responded to some of these statistics. They created the Ministry of Gender and Child Development. They put in place a gender policy. They put in a land policy saying 50% of the land should be allocated to women. And there is a very, very ambitious program to stop child marriages. Chiefs actually are the ones who go around picking up parents who marry off girls at a very young age. But that is maybe in 10% of the cases. A lot of the cases go unreported. In reality, however, Zambian women continue to face diverse challenges, and the practical day-to-day application of the work practices in place do not actually support the ascending of women to top leadership positions. The adage that educate a man and you educate one person, educate a woman and you educate a nation is not a mere platitude. Women actually fish themselves. Now, I'm talking about women. What is it that makes a woman tick? Why are we saying that SDG 5, the attainment of SDG 5, can assist in the attainment of the other SDGs? Women have a survival instinct, and that survival instinct is to teach. They teach people, they teach their children. They teach their children to cook, they teach their children to fish, they teach their children to carry firewood. They teach. The teachings go on. And that teaching is actually their survival. Because the people who they teach will later on look after them. So we are saying that even if a woman says she wants to go to school, she is not saying she wants to go to school because she wants to compete with her husband. She wants to go to school because she wants to survive. It's survival. It's got nothing to do with competition among men and women. It's got absolutely nothing to do with that. In most countries, the Ombudsman institutions have continued to represent the voiceless. Ombudsman institutions represent the vulnerable women and children against discrimination. This has ensured that everyone participates in the development process. Ombudsman institutions are actively engaged with local communities so that they are aware of the development issues affecting them. Just recently, the International Ombudsman Institute has worked with the Ombudsman Office of Niger. They are carrying out a village awareness campaign. They are going out into the villages and they are going to talk about girls' rights. And I think when I visited the stand of the Nigerian Public Service Commission, I saw some pictures and were being told about the way they do the awareness campaigns in the villages, right down to the grassroots. The categories of maladministration are never closed. Like we say, the categories of negligence are never closed. So therefore, it is possible that the Ombudsman Office can actually use its powers to investigate issues related to the implementation of SDG 5. If I look at the legal matrix, which was produced by the United Nations regarding the implementation of SDG 5, they talked about ending all forms of discrimination against all women and girls everywhere. And then they state in the targets whether or not legal frameworks are in place to promote, enforce, and monitor equality and non-discrimination on the basis of sex. Whether or not the legal frameworks are there, we must try to end all forms of discrimination against all women and girls everywhere. An ombudsman does not need a penal code. An ombudsman works outside the framework of a penal code. So long as a public service official is working during the course of his official functions, or he's omitting to perform his official functions, and there is a complaint of maladministration that comes up, it can be investigated, even if it falls within the framework of SDG 5. I was trying to make this as practical as possible to see how we can realize the implementation of SDG 5. I hope it has helped in a way. Thank you very much. Oh. Okay.
Thank you very much. Can you do a better round of applause for the Ombudsman of Zambia? Now, because this event is live streamed, we have to try to keep, within the time so that we don't interrupt the other side. So we will not take questions now, but if we have any critical questions, just reserve them. The event is not over. We will take them at any other time after this morning session. So we're now going to allocate the next 10 minutes to our technical side to launch the pictorial exhibition from now. So over to you. Can we have that? But I want to say that she's touched on very critical things. The foremost issues affecting women, as she considered, female genital mutilation, child marriage, very critical things that happen all over Africa. We know that. And I'm happy she ended up by saying that the ombudsman is not tied down by criminal law, so there must be a way to get around it to intervene. Even if as a whistleblower, I'm sure under the Nigerian law, the ombudsman also handles whistleblowing. So if it means using that avenue to get to assist these category of persons. Thank you very much once again, Ombudsman. A round of applause for her. Then we'll have the pictorial. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. That pictorial show is continuous. It is arranged according to regions. And we're ending up this one with Chizuma, the ombudsman of Malawi, who happens also to be on the high table. So it will be run later. It's not, we're stopping for now because we're keeping to the program. But it will be run and then it will be available also at the, the exhibition site. So you can watch it there too. But even here, it will be run at a later time. You had a very robust, information about the number of females that have been appointed ombudsmen. And you know that what we have seen is just a tip of the iceberg. This will continue to be shown in later stages. Now, a lost item has been picked up and is at the table close to the door. If you lost something, please, you can check there. We keep it like that so that if you lost nothing, you don't have any problem. Maybe you lost something, go find out whether it is that thing that is being found. And then you can identify yourself and collect it. Now, today is the birthday of the Ombudsman of Sierra Leone. Can you rise up for recognition? That's the Ombudsman of Sierra Leone. Today is his birthday, and there is a card that is available if you want to sign it okay, it's right here. Yes. So I think you should take, they can start signing it there. So as many as are available and willing to sign the birthday card for the Ombudsman of Sierra Leone will sign it. But we want to say a very, very happy birthday to you. Do we want to sing a song for him? Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ombudsman. Happy birthday to you. Hip, 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 hooray. Hip, 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 hooray. Hip, 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 hooray. Happy birthday. Okay, so the announcement was made before the morning session is over at this time. And we are now moving to the next event, which is the courtesy call on the Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So the ombudsmen of the various jurisdictions and leaders of delegation, you will just move right outside their vehicle, will be waiting, and we shall all move to that for that event. I want once more to finally thank our panelists who have fed us this morning session. And I said before that when I came over at first, I introduced them to you and tried to tell you who they are. Now I don't need to say it. They have shown who they are, and I'm sure next time any of you can come here and talk about each of these wonderful ladies that we have on the platform. I was nearly making the ambassador of Uganda a female ombudsman. Because Uganda is it? Angola, sorry. Because he was sitting here yesterday. So when he came in today, he comfortably sat there. And we know that this is reserved for only female ombudsman today. So I had two options. Do I declare him a female ombudsman? But I said, no, Angola will not be happy with me, so I quietly moved him away from there so that he's not declared a female ombudsman. Thank you very much, Ambassador of Angola, and you're welcome. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So the morning session is over. We'll look at our program and follow it as it is.
throw me punch, but I swear them no reach, oh, eh. 20 man shall fall that day if you cross my lane, oh, eh. All your man shall fall that day if you cross my lane. No, you're back to the mat, open and close, touch your toes. Baby, oh yeah, yod, back to the mat, open and close, touch your toes. Oh yeah, baby, oh yeah, yod, back to the mat, open and close, touch your toes. Oh yeah, baby, oh yeah, yod, back to the mat, open and close, touch your toes. Oh yeah, baby, oh yeah, yod.
I was walking down the street one day. When I looked up, I saw a friend. Hey, Frankie, do you remember me? You looked at me and then I blushed, 'cause I remembered I loved you so much way back when. We were friends, going together, but then you left me. Frankie, do you remember me? Frankie, do you remember? You were 15 and I was 12. It was summer, we were so in love. I never loved anyone this much. Look at me, I'm thrilled to your touch. Hey, Frankie, do you remember me? Frankie, do you remember? Oh, how you brought me down, down, down. All I did was run around. You'll never know how much I love you. Frankie, do you remember? Do you remember me?
First thing Monday morning, I'm gonna pack my tears away. Got no